Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that helps you get right to the heart of really cutting-edge research.
Yeah, distilling it down.
Exactly. And today we're tackling something huge, something that affects, well, every single one of us,
Mhm.
aging.
It's universal, isn't it?
Totally. You start noticing little changes and it makes you think about health, vitality, how long we might actually live well.
Hmm.
And the research in this area, it's just exploded. I mean, get this. Almost 300,000 articles just since 2013.
It's an incredible amount of information to sift through.
Right.
So our mission today really is to give you a shortcut through all that. We're drawing heavily on a key review article, one that updates this core concept, the hallmarks of aging.
Okay, hallmarks of aging. Let's break that down. What does that actually mean? What makes something a hallmark?
A good question. It's not just anything that changes with age. There are three specific criteria it needs to meet.
Okay.
First, it has to show up or get worse as we age. Pretty straightforward.
Makes
Second, if you experimentally make it worse, like in a lab study, it has to actually speed up aging.
okay. Cause and effect.
Exactly. And third, and this is the really crucial one, if you can intervene therapeutically, do something about it, you should be able to slow, stop, or maybe even reverse parts of aging.
Got it. So it's a pretty rigorous definition then.
It is. It helps us focus on the real drivers.
So with this updated list, we used to talk about 9 hallmarks, right? But now it's more complex.
You're spot on. Aging isn't, just one thing failing. It's this super complex web, interconnected.
Right.
The original 9 were foundational, but the science has moved on. Now we're looking at 12, and they're grouped into 3 categories: primary, antagonistic, and integrative.
Okay.
And our goal today is to unpack those, pull out some, frankly, surprising facts, and explore what it all might mean for you.
Excellent roadmap. Let's start at the beginning then, with the primary hallmarks. These are like the basic damage that builds up.
It's a good way to think of it. Foundational damage. And first up is genomic instability.
Our DNA getting damaged.
Exactly. Your DNA, both the main stuff in the nucleus and in the mitochondria, the powerhouses, it's constantly under attack.
From what?
Oh, internal errors, like mistakes when cells copy DNA, but also external things, UV light, toxins, you name it.
Wow.
Now, we have amazing repair systems, but,
Yeah.
well, they just get less efficient as we get older. They slow down.
The scale of it blew my mind. I read that normal cells in your esophagus can have over 2,000 mutations by middle age.
Yeah, it's staggering, isn't it?
Mm.
That number really hits home how constant this damage is.
So what does that do? Why aren't we falling apart sooner?
Well, it leads to cells not working properly, which affects tissue health,
Mm.
especially stem cells, the ones we need for renewal.
Uh-huh.
Why don't we fall apart sooner? Because our repair systems are good, just not perfect, and they decline. It's also fascinating. You look across species, right?
Yeah.
Things like giant tortoises, they live incredibly long lives. And guess what? They have much lower rates of this DNA mutation. Better repair.
Huh. Interesting connection. So our instruction manual gets errors and the repair crew gets slower. Is there any good news? Any way to like boost the repair crew?
There's some promising signs, yeah. Mostly in animal models so far, but still.
Like what?
Well, overexpressing certain proteins, like one called BUBAR1 kinase, or another one SRT6. In mice, doing this has actually extended their healthy lifespan
How?
by improving DNA repair. So it shows proof of concept, we might be able to counter this damage.
Okay, so that's damage to the code itself. The next primary hallmark, telomere attrition, sounds more like the bookends falling off.
Huh, that's a great analogy. Telomeres are exactly like that, protective caps on the ends of our chromosomes, like the plastic tips on shoelaces.
And they get shorter?
Every time a cell divides, yep,
Yeah.
they shorten a little bit. Now, there's an enzyme, telomerase, that can lengthen them, but most of our adult cells don't really make much of it. So over a lifetime, they tend to shorten.
Now, here's something that really surprised me. You'd think shorter telomeres are just bad. Full stop. But they can actually help prevent cancer.
Right. It seems totally counterintuitive at first.
Yeah.
But by limiting how many times a cell can divide, short telomeres can stop potential tumor cells from dividing uncontrollably. It's a trade-off.
A biological trade-off. Good early on, maybe, but contributes to aging later.
Precisely. That's that antagonistic pleiotropy idea again. And we see the downside clearly in humans where problems with telomerase are linked to diseases like pulmonary fibrosis happening prematurely.
Okay, so it's a double-edged sword, but the research. Are we seeing ways to maybe, I don't know, manage this better, reverse it even?
Well, that's the exciting part. It's not just about slowing it down. Reactivating telomerase in mice, get this, It actually reversed premature aging.
Reversed it. Wow.
Yeah, and even in normal mice, giving them hyperlong telomeres extended their lifespan. So if we could figure out how to safely tweak telomerase in
That
humans,
would be huge. Game changing.
it opens up completely new possibilities for kind of cellular rejuvenation.
Okay, so we've got DNA damage, fraying ends. What about the control system? That brings us to epigenetic alterations. This isn't the DNA code itself, right? It's something else.
Exactly. Think of DNA as the hardware. Epigenetics is the software. It tells the genes what to do, when to do it, which genes should be on or off in which cell.
Okay, like instructions.
Instructions, yeah. Chemical tags on the DNA, modifications to proteins around the DNA, stuff like that. And these instructions, well, they change as we age. They get a bit messy.
Cells kind of forget what they're supposed to be doing.
In a way, yeah. They lose their proper identity or function.
And this is where the epigenetic clock comes in. I find that concept fascinating.
It is fascinating. Scientists can look at these epigenetic patterns, specifically DNA methylation, and predict your biological age pretty accurately, sometimes even your risk of mortality.
That's wild. Can we turn it back?
Well, remarkably, there are hints we might be able to. Human studies, small ones, but still, supplementing with alpha-ketoglutarate for 7 months seemed to roll back the epigenetic clock by 8 years on average.
8 years? Seriously?
Seriously. And another study using a protocol to regenerate the thymus gland, that reduced epigenetic age by about 1.5 years.
Okay, that's incredible. It's not just theory then.
No, we're seeing actual shifts. And there are other epigenetic factors too, like these things called retrotransposons.
Who knows?
They're like mobile genetic elements, bits of DNA that can copy themselves and jump around the genome.
Oh, sounds disruptive.
It can be. Their regulation gets looser with age, and they can cause damage and drive aging. But interestingly, some drugs we already have, like certain HIV drugs,
Yeah.
can actually suppress them. And in mice, that's improved health and lifespan. Unexpected connections,
Definitely. Okay, next primary hallmark, loss of proteostasis. Protein management going wrong.
Spot on. Proteostasis is the whole system for managing proteins, making sure they fold correctly, do their job, and get cleared out when they're damaged or misfolded.
And this system breaks down with age.
It declines, yeah. So you get this buildup of junk proteins, misfolded ones, and that's directly linked to really nasty diseases, especially neurodegenerative ones.
Like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, protein aggregation is a key feature in those.
So what's the body's normal cleanup crew for this? And can we help them?
The main players are the proteasome, kind of the cell's garbage disposal for proteins and lysosomes, which handle bigger recycling jobs.
Cool.
And yes, there are interventions showing promise in mice. Giving them a human protein called HSP70 intranasally improved their cognition and lifespan.
Wow.
And activating a specific lysosomal pathway called chaperone-mediated autophagy helped reduce Alzheimer's-like pathology in mouse models.
So boosting the cleanup crew seems possible.
It does.
And that leads nicely to the last primary hallmark, which is related but distinct. Disabled macroautophagy. How is this different from general proteostasis?
Good question. Macroautophagy, or just autophagy, is broader. It's the cell's major self-recycling process. It doesn't just deal with individual proteins. It can engulf and break down whole chunks of cytoplasm, damaged organelles like mitochondria.
Ah, so it's like the heavy-duty recycling center.
Exactly. While it's related to proteostasis, its role is so fundamental, especially in clearing out bigger junk like worn-out mitochondria, and its decline with age is so significant that it's now considered its own separate hallmark.
Okay, makes sense. And interventions here. Anything looking good?
Oh, yeah. Spermidine is a big one. Giving mice spermidine orally extended their longevity by up to 25% and reduced heart aging.
25%. That's huge.
It is. And then there are the NAD plus precursors, NMN and R. You've probably heard about those.
Very popular supplements.
They're showing promise in early human trials for things like insulin resistance, Parkinson's, partly because they boost NAD plus levels, which is crucial for energy metabolism, but also helps induce mitophagy.
Mitophagy.
Specific autophagy just for mitochondria.
Yeah.
Cleaning out the old powerhouses.
Got it. Okay, so those are the primary damages. Now we shift gears to the antagonistic hallmarks. These are responses that backfire.
Pretty much. They're adaptive responses, often beneficial earlier in life, but they paradoxically contribute to aging later on. First one, deregulated nutrient sensing.
Our body's fuel sensors get wonky.
Yeah, pathways that sense nutrients, like the one involving growth hormone and IGF-1, super important for growth when you're young.
Right.
But in adulthood, keeping those pathways cranked up seems to accelerate aging. Another case of that antagonistic pleiotropy. Good early, bad late.
This really puts a spotlight on diet, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Too much food, especially certain types, keeps these pro-aging pathways overactive, whereas things like caloric restriction or intermittent fasting have been shown to extend lifespan in all sorts of animals, even primates.
Yeah.
Male mice on CR saw lifespan increases of 10–30%. That's significant.
Wow. Any specific dietary components?
Ketone bodies are interesting. Giving mice a ketone body called 3-hydroxybutyrate consistently actually increased their lifespan and health span.
Huh. So maybe that's part of why keto diets show some benefits.
It could be mediating some of those effects, yeah.
Okay, next antagonistic one. Mitochondrial dysfunction. We know they make energy, but you mentioned they do more.
Much more. They're involved in inflammation signaling, cell death pathways. They're crucial signaling hubs.
Yeah.
And yeah, their function declines with age, partly due to that DNA damage we talked about.
Right.
But here's a weird twist. Mitohormesis.
Mitohormesis. Sounds like hormesis is a little stress being good.
Exactly. A mild stress or partial inhibition of mitochondrial function, especially earlier in life, can trigger protective responses that actually make the cell more resilient and can extend lifespan.
So stressing them a little bit makes them stronger.
In a sense, yeah. It kicks off these beneficial stress response pathways.
Any human relevance here? Things we can do?
Well, some suggestive findings. L-carnitine supplements helped older men improve fat burning during exercise, suggesting better mitochondrial function. It's about optimization, maybe nudging them gently.
Okay. Now for the really famous one in this category, cellular senescence. The zombie cells.
Ah, yes, the zombies. They get a lot of press, and for good reason.
So remind us, they stop dividing, but they don't die.
Correct. They enter this state of arrested growth, but instead of dying off, they stick around. And they become problematic because they start secreting this cocktail of inflammatory molecules.
The SASP?
The SASP, exactly. Senescence-associated secretory phenotype. It's like they become grumpy old cells yelling inflammatory things at their neighbors.
Great image. But I remember reading they actually have a good side too, like initially.
They do. That's the antagonistic part again. Senescence is important for stopping damaged cells from becoming cancerous, and it plays a role in wound healing, like temporary roadblocks. But the problem is when they don't get cleared away properly by the immune system, which happens more as we age, they accumulate, and that chronic SAP contributes to inflammation, fibrosis, basically tissue dysfunction.
Right, so clearing them out seems like a good idea, and that's where senolytics come in.
Exactly. Senolytics are drugs designed to selectively kill these senescent cells, to take out the zombies.
And is it working?
The preclinical data in mice is really impressive. Clearing senescent cells extends health span, delays age-related diseases, even extends lifespan in naturally aged mice.
Wow, what about in people?
Early days, but promising. Combinations like dasatinib and quercetin are being tested in human clinical trials for things like lung fibrosis, kidney disease, showing some positive signals.
So moving from the lab to potentially real treatments.
That's the hope. The key idea is that removing these disruptive cells could significantly improve tissue health and reduce that low-grade inflammation.
Incredible potential. Okay, last category, integrative hallmarks. These sound like the big picture consequences of everything else.
That's right. They represent the sort of system-level failures that result from the accumulation of primary damage and those antagonistic responses. First one, stem cell exhaustion.
Our body's repair crew just runs out of steam?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Tissues don't renew as well. We don't heal from injury as effectively. A big reason is that our stem cells get depleted or they lose their plasticity.
Plasticity.
Their ability to turn into the different types of specialized cells needed for repair. Imagine your repair kit running low on essential parts.
Yeah, okay. But then there's this almost sci-fi concept, partial reprogramming.
Ah, yes. This is truly cutting-edge stuff. Using specific factors, often called Yamanaka factors or OSKM.
Right.
Scientists can partially reprogram cells, pushing them back towards a younger state without completely erasing their identity.
Then this works.
In mice, it's shown remarkable results. It could reset those epigenetic clocks we talked about, restore function to aged tissues, even things like improving vision and memory in old mice.
That's mind-blowing. Actually rejuvenating cells.
It suggests we might be able to, yes, not just slow aging, but potentially reverse some aspects at a cellular level in specific tissues. Still lots to figure out, but the potential is immense.
Okay, next integrative hallmark, altered intercellular communication. The body's messaging system goes haywire.
Exactly. Cells, tissues, organs.
Mhm.
They're constantly talking to each other through chemical signals, hormones, cytokines, exosomes.
Mhm.
With age, this communication network gets noisy, signals get crossed, ignored, misinterpreted. The whole system becomes less coordinated.
And the evidence for this is dramatic. I'm thinking of those blood swapping experiments.
The parabiosis experiments, yes,
Yeah.
truly dramatic.
Yeah.
Connecting the circulatory systems of a young mouse and an old mouse.
Yeah, what happened?
Old blood made the young mouse show signs of aging. But crucially, young blood had rejuvenating effects on the old mouse's tissues,
Mhm.
brain function, muscle repair.
Wow, so there's really stuff in the blood that drives aging or fights it.
Absolutely. It proved the concept of circulating factors.
Huh.
And now researchers are identifying specific ones. Things like IL-37, found in young blood, improves exercise capacity in old mice. Another factor, VEGF, extended lifespan and boosted repair in mice by around 40%.
40%, just from one factor.
In that specific study, yeah. It highlights how powerful these communication signals are. Aging isn't just cell intrinsic. The environment the cells live in, like the blood, matters hugely.
Powerful indeed. Okay, moving on to chronic inflammation or inflammaging. We hear this term a lot.
We do. It's this low-grade, persistent systemic inflammation that just creeps up as we get older. It's not like the acute inflammation you get with an infection. It's a constant, smoldering fire.
And it connects to everything else.
Everything. That's what makes it so central. DNA damage can trigger it. Senescent cells secrete inflammatory stuff, as ASP. Mitochondrial dysfunction contributes. It's linked to almost all the other hallmarks.
Creating a vicious cycle.
Exactly. Inflammation drives further damage, which drives more inflammation. It accelerates the whole aging process and underlies many age-related diseases.
So tackling inflammation seems key. Are there effective ways to do that?
Yes, and targeting specific inflammatory pathways shows real promise.
Oh.
Blocking one molecule, TNF-alpha, prevented muscle loss in aged mice.
Okay.
Inhibiting something called the NLRP3 inflammasome improved metabolism, cognition, and even extended lifespan in mice.
Wow. Any human evidence?
Yes, a major trial with a drug called canakinumab, which targets IL-1 beta. It was designed for heart disease, and it did reduce cardiovascular events, but it also unexpectedly reduced the risk of getting diabetes, hypertension, even lung cancer.
That's incredible. It shows how fundamental inflammation is.
Totally. Targeting that core process has widespread benefits.
Okay, last hallmark. Dysbiosis. This one focuses on the gut microbiome. Seems a bit different from the others.
It might seem that way initially, but the gut connection to overall health and aging is incredibly strong.
That's so.
Our gut is teeming with trillions of bacteria, the microbiome.
Yeah.
And the composition of that community changes significantly as we age. Often we lose diversity and get an imbalance that's dysbiosis.
And this imbalance matters.
Hugely.
Yeah.
It affects our immune system, our metabolism, inflammation levels throughout the body, even our brain function through the gut-brain axis.
Wow. And I remember hearing about fecal transplants. Sounds gross, but the result...
Fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT.
Yeah.
Yeah, the name isn't glamorous, but the results in animal models are astonishing.
Like what?
Taking gut microbes from young, healthy mice and transplanted them into mice with accelerated aging,
Yeah.
it extended their health span and lifespan.
Seriously.
Right.
Just changing the gut bacteria.
Yep. And even in normally aged mice, FMT from young donors improved brain health and immune function. It shows a direct causal link.
So it's not just about probiotics from the store. It's more complex.
It's more complex, yeah.
Yeah.
Although specific beneficial bacteria are being identified, like Akkermansia mucindifila, it's found in higher levels in centenarians. And even metabolites produced by gut bacteria, like short-chain fatty acids or indoles, seem to promote healthy aging and reduce inflammation. It's a super active research area.
Absolutely fascinating. So bringing all 12 hallmarks together, what's the big picture takeaway? It feels like they're all tangled up together.
That's exactly it. The interconnectedness is maybe the single most important point. They don't operate in isolation. Damage in one area triggers problems in another.
Like a cascade.
A cascade. Or, like you said, a symphony going out of tune. And what's really telling is that many of the most promising interventions we see, things like the drug metformin or the supplement spermidine,
Yeah.
they don't just hit one hallmark. They seem to influence multiple pathways simultaneously. They have these broader synergistic effects.
Which suggests targeting the whole system or key nodes in the network is the way to go.
Precisely. It reinforces that aging is this complex, system-wide process.
And the exciting thing is, this isn't just lab theory anymore. It's translating into actual strategies, right?
Absolutely. We're moving towards really rational, evidence-based approaches for human longevity. It starts with the fundamentals we know work: good diet, exercise, sleep, social connection.
The lifestyle stuff.
The lifestyle stuff is foundational. But beyond that, we're seeing the development of targeted drugs, like senolytics, perhaps NAD plus boosters, maybe things that modulate nutrient sensing, and further down the line, even gene therapies are being explored.
The pace feels incredibly fast.
It really is. What seemed like science fiction even 10, 15 years ago is now entering preclinical or even early clinical trials.
So it really makes you wonder if aging is becoming maybe not curable yet, but a treatable condition. If we're seeing these interventions work in animals and start to translate, how is our society going to change when we can actively manage, maybe even reverse, these hallmarks of aging within ourselves?
That's the big question, isn't it?
A lot to think about. We definitely invite you to keep exploring this fascinating frontier with us.